Welcome to another Chef Knives to Go Quick Look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and what we're looking at today is the Takeda Classic Banno Funayuki knife. This line of knives, as of all Takeda-san's knives, have a core steel of Aogami, or what's known as Blue Paper Super, reactive high-carbon steel from Hitachi. They shoot for around 62 Rockwell on that core steel, so kind of middle of the road heat treat, not super hard, not super soft. The construction is a Kudauchi finish on top of a soft iron cladding on either side of that core steel. So you've got a 3-layer sandwich, and it's the classic line, so it's got the kind of more crinkled finish versus the more smooth finish to the stainless clad line. The weight, dimensions, lengths, and thicknesses and so on will vary, sometimes a fair amount from knife to knife within the same model type. So if you've got particular preferences, you might ask Chef Knives to Go if they've got a particular style, tall, short, long, thick, thin, that you might be looking for. Maybe they can find a match for you, no guarantees, but these can vary quite a bit. This particular Funayuki is very thin, it's quite tall, so again, they may vary a little bit, sometimes substantially from knife to knife. They are made without a template. So the weight on this particular one is 3.6 ounces or 102 grams. The edge length is about 176 millimeters or almost 7 inches on the edge from the tip to the chin or the back of the heel, and the overall length about 12.3 inches on the entire blade. Again, this particular one is really thin, so it's only about 1.8 coming out of the handle above the back of the blade, and then it pretty much just keeps that thinness, maybe even gets a little thinner as you go down, and then when you hit the grind, the primary bevel, it thins out towards the tip. So this has a bit of flex to it. This is not a super stiff blade by any means. There are some, again, that Mark probably has are a little thicker than this, but this one seems to be an exceptionally thin example. The blade height on this one's pretty tall. It's almost 57 millimeter from the spine to the edge. And the handle, they've got a really nice octagonal ambidextrous rosewood handle with ebony ferrule, although they're starting to look like they might be black packawood, but anyway, that's what the site says. The fit and finish is nice. The install, they do put an epoxy sealer around the front of the ferrule to keep moisture out, which is great if you're going to do this in a commercial environment. I personally like it. Some people don't like the look, but it really does seal that up nicely against moisture entering. The handle circumference on this one at the ferrule wood junction's about 74 millimeters, or just a little under 3 inches. Let's take a close-up look at the blade. So this is what this particular one looks like. I played around a little bit sharpening this, so I've kind of put my own finish on it, so it's a little more shiny than you would see out of the box. These are ground to basically a zero bevel, which means, or a zero grind, which means the primary bevel just goes right to the edge. There's not really a secondary bevel on it. And they're generally extremely sharp out of the box, usually 7 or maybe even 8 out of 10. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10 because when I ran my finger along the edge, it was just a slight hiccup or catch in the edge on that. I went ahead and kind of played around with sharpening it a little bit. The left side of the blade has Takeda-san's markings on there. So this shows you AS versus NAS for the stainless clad. Again, thin, thin, thin. If you look at this particular knife, you can see how thin it actually is. And again, it's got a fair amount of flex to it. And you can see the blade is thin throughout. These have really good food release because they actually hammer them a little thinner right here, and then they come back up slightly before you hit the primary grind. So it's kind of almost a slight hourglass shape where you've got the spine. It thins out even more towards the middle, thickens right back up just before that bevel grind starts, and then thins out. And what that does is give you great food separation. So let's see what else. Fit and finish is really nice. So you've got some slightly relieved spine and choil. So these are really comfortable out of the box. Again, normally they have super sharp edges out of the box. I don't know if you can see that, but there's the seal on the tang where the front of the ferrule or handle meets. and nothing quite like a Takeda. So if you don't have one and you're interested, you might consider getting one. You should experience it for yourself if you have an interest in them. Nothing quite the same. They're not. There's really not any other knife on the market designed quite like these and hammered quite like these. So very interesting product. This particular one, as you can see, almost has a santoku type shape to it. Let's look at it on a cutting board. And here's what she looks like on the cutting board. So this one just kind of has a gentle curve. It's not flat in the sense of a Nakiri, for example. So gentle curve throughout. I don't get real high on this because the tip, you can see the sheep's foot kind of tip comes way down on it. So I don't have a real large amount of clearance there on the rock. So this does rock really nicely, but just on shorter products. And again, it's not super flat, so you'll have to put a little bit of motion in your cuts if you want to do bigger cuts with it and kind of follow the curve of the blade. But there you have another really unique, high-performance, kind of a special knife. This is Takeda-san's, their classic Banno Funayuki knife.